This reading today is a follow-up to the reading I just did called Are You Your Own Twin? Now this is a progression from that reading into the next part of this contemplation, this hypothesis of mine, that not only do you have your own twin existing right inside of your own body, but that there's a third party in there too, and this is the very important part of this whole system, the most important part of the whole system. So this is chapter 8, and it's called the Triune. Where is this relationship going? Now that we have considered my hypothesis that the Kundalini has its own twin, that you have your own twin existing within you, let's consider where this dog and pony show is going. Remember, these twins are represented and easily identified as the right and left hemisphere of the physical and subtle bodies. If this is true, that there are two entities operating one side each of the physical body, then if we add in the presence of the spiritual self within the body, now we have a triune situation, don't we? A group of three things. In nature and in spirit, we seem to find many sets of three, don't we? The living being operating in this material creation seems to be no exception. The core self sits on a throne in the center of the head and has two hemispheres that it works within. So there's three entities. The hemispheres of the Kundalini body, the material body, and the third, the core self, the spiritual person, or Atma. Hopefully, the core self, at some point in its evolutionary process, can influence these two hemispheres towards spiritual living and spiritual progress. Hopefully, it may assume control over the lifestyle that the two Kundalini hemispheres have with the rest of nature. This relationship between the Kundalini and the self, for the majority of us souls, goes on and on and on and on. It's called reincarnation. Reincarnation. The astral body permeates its energy into the receptive physical elements of the body, like electricity traveling through a wire. Then we see an animated, living, physical life form, like the one that you see in the mirror. The self, encased in the astral body, is often encased in the physical body as well, whenever the astral body is using a physical body. As these physical bodies wear out and die, the astral body keeps living. At some time in the astral, long or short, after some time in the astral, after the physical body dies, after some time in the astral, a long period of time or a short period of time, the astral body is eventually drawn back into another physical form through sexual reproduction. That's how we get bodies. Reincarnation, it's called. And here we are, so many eons, yugas away from the inconceivable beginning of time in this one little dimension. The real age of our earth plane, including the sky, sun, moon, and luminaries, is unknown. Corporate science, especially NASA, indoctrinate us with their assertions as to its age, origin, and shape. Yet these assertions don't hold much water beyond theory. Religious scriptural texts also attempt to describe how old they think it is and how it all began. But no one here in this dimension seems to know conclusively. The corporate mainstream science mafia feeds us existential answer pellets regarding the creation, while we are still malleable children. We eat them and they become part of our reality, no questions, even if that reality is totally off the mark. This plane that we exist on, like the rest of the planes above and below us, have been an expression for an unimaginable amount of time. Time? What's that? It's another element worth pondering. It is. Time exists, and only a fool will say it does not. Time is not an illusion. Time is a substance we live in. It is part of the overarching Kundalini operating system, controlling the entirety of the universal system we live in. It seems like nature has a lot of time, that it's an abundant element. Time is life, and time is death, and every single thing in between. Seems there is a long past behind us all, and a long future stretched out before us. What will the overarching Kundalini do with this time, with the space, with the other elements, with the entities, with you? We can't know fully, but we can find out as much as we can. We can embrace the fact that we are living in a system and try to find ourselves within it. Imagine this. What if you were fused to your car? If you could no longer discern yourself from your car, your hands seem like part of the steering wheel, your legs part of the seat, your feet helplessly attached to the pedals. What if you could not distinguish yourself from your car? Then what if somebody said to you, "Hey, you aren't really part of that car. You are separate from it. Yes, you may need it to get around, and it may seem you are fused to it. Still, it is not you." What if then you realized you weren't this vehicle, that you had forgotten yourself and submitted to identification with the car because of its constant activity and distraction power? Spiritual living is living in the awareness of all of our parts. Daily discernment of those parts is needed to maintain the knowing, organizing them into workable segments. To live spiritually, we use self-discipline to create a life for ourselves where we can spend quality time analyzing, studying, and very importantly, cleaning those ever-contaminating parts. This way of life, however that looks for each of us, can offer sparkling opportunities for wonderment, experiences of transcendence and self-realization. So, let me read that paragraph again about spiritual living. Spiritual living is the awareness of all of our parts. And listen, you can do this. Don't think, "Oh, I don't have time to do that, to analyze my parts and to pay attention to myself. I'm too busy." You do it within the midst of the busyness. You have that detached self-awareness, that observing self, that observing objective viewing of what you're doing. Who's doing it? Where the energy's coming from? How the parts of the body are functioning? And where that spiritual consciousness is located and how it's viewing everything that's being done. So spiritual living is not some way that you set up your house or something that you wear or things that you say. It's what you're doing inside of your head and how you're looking at the world and what kind of clarity of consciousness you're able to look at it from. And our spiritual practices and exercises are meant to clarify that perception and give us that reality-piercing consciousness and insight that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. So anyway, this is from the book Kundalini and Me. And we'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening.